No beer cans.
No, well, yeah. I actually quit drinking. Quite proud of that. 18 months now.
Nice.
No liquor. Yeah. So
Nice.
it's been good. It's been really helpful for like so many things, but I feel like my mixing's really been elevated. Just having such a clear head and just, good, being in a better mood all the time.
Yeah,
Not
that's something
coming to the
like
studio
drinking
hungover.
is something I struggle with. Like, I mean, I'm no like real alcoholics would laugh at me and be like, I don't have a problem. But like, I was drinking like five beers a day every day. That's, I'm not really getting drunk. I'm just drinking beers and wasting money, right? So like, I've cut it down to the weekend. But I definitely notice on the weekends when I wake up, I'm anxious. I'm like angry. I'm like yelling at the kids and shit. Like, I'm just like, I'm not a nice person. So like, all these things affect us more when we get older, right? So
Yeah. Hangovers hit different.
yeah, man.
Once
It
you hit
takes like a
30,
whole
you
2
can't
days,
recover the
bro.
same
Yeah,
way.
man.
Just, all that. So I just decided, I don't know, I weaned myself off for a bit, like started mixing my beer with sparkling water and just making like homemade Coronas and then Modelo's and just like making it like
And then
lighter and lighter.
0% Heinekens and
That's what I did.
sparkling water.
Yeah, and now I go through like a case of sparkling water a week, like, but it's something about just like opening it and then drinking like that action. You know how people smoke those like plastic cigarettes that you just suck on? And
Yeah, it's just
like,
another form of sucking our thumbs, right?
yeah, it's just like
Really, like
I like
we're just
that
babies.
motion. I liked having a drink. I like
Totally.
and so now I, like you said, just 5 or 6. I was just spending money and it wasn't really doing anything. Wasn't getting anywhere. So, that's been huge. It's been really, really helped my art and my creativity.
Do you
and all
smoke
those
weed?
things. Not really. I mean, no. To be honest, I occasionally will do edibles. Like microdose. But I'm such a like anxious, sensitive guy to begin with that shit just takes me to like 200% and I can't handle. I just can't handle it. So the sober me is just like it's the best version of me yet. So I'm enjoying that right now.
That's often the case. Like it's usually the best version of everybody, right? I mean,
It's interesting. There's like a new, like the high that I used to chase or the high that I used to strive for now is sort of like my baseline, but it's been replaced by like joy or just like feeling alive, if that makes sense, because that cloud's gone. That that perma hangover or that perma whatever is just out of my life. So anyhow, it's good. Didn't expect us to start the show this way.
it's real low. It's okay. We'll bring it up. It's like it can only go up from here, right?
But that's why I offered you a sparkling water because I have an abundance of those. Chilled, always ready to go. So So, are you comfortable?
Yeah, I'm very good. Yeah,
I'm good. I'm just fussing with this. So usually what we do, man, is we just talk like this for a little bit. I'll go back into the Pro Tools and be like, okay, this is where the conversation like actually starts, and then we'll just trim everything before that. But this is just super organic. We're just gonna talk. Really interested in hearing about like how you got started in music and making beats and all that, and feel free to ask me questions as well. Like just we'll make it as natural as possible. I'm not here to like grill you or just like fire off a million questions. Just trying to keep it, natural.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, is there anything that you don't want to talk about? The reason I asked that is because I did have one sort of difficult experience once where I brought up like a label that someone was with that they weren't with and I didn't know, and then we had to trim part of the show. So
No, whatever.
Okay. All right.
We'll talk about anything.
Cool. And you'll go by Sythe for
Sure.
the show?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of my friends call me that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know what my real name is. People have known me for like 2 decades. So. We won't tell them yet.
We won't tell them. We'll keep it a secret. Cool. Okay. Well, Sythe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing this. We don't normally do introductions, but we'll get that out of the way there. Yeah, there's a lot that I want to talk about tonight. I feel like we have quite a lot in common, having a pretty solid hip hop background myself. You know, I was instantly drawn to your work, and having you know, had a chance to dissect your beats while working on the Manco Wilder project. Instantly became a fan of your sound and your style, and you know, your choice of drums and all of those things. So I'm really looking forward to diving into that more tonight, and hearing about your creative process. But maybe we should start at the beginning. Like, you know, usually one of the first things that I like to ask people is, you know, how did they get started doing what they're doing right now? So for you, you know, primarily known as a producer, but you do dabble in some MCing a little bit.
Yeah, I rap a little bit. Yeah.
So which one of those came first?
That's a tough one. When I was young, like I always tried to write songs, whether it was like a little Casio keyboard I had or whatever. Like music is very like prominent in my family. Both my grandfathers played and wanted me to play, like grandfathers usually do, right? If they love something, they want to push it on. They got time to push it on you, so they tried to.
Sure.
In a nice way, in a way that I still love music today, right? But definitely was in my life at a young age. I played instruments all through elementary school. But I was always trying to like write songs, and I couldn't sing at all. I was terrible, like tone deaf, like my mom, like just terrible. So I kind of fell in love with hip hop randomly when my uncle, as a joke, for my like 10th birthday, gave me a Bone Thugs and Harmony CD. Like it was a joke, like one of those uncle things, right? Like it's a joke on my dad, right? His brother.
Yeah, okay.
And they're twins, right? So like they're just always messing with each other. So Bone Thugs and Harmony, that was like my first experience to hip hop, and it's pretty heavy hip hop, rap, and then from there just kind of fell in love with the art form, and this is around the time of like just before Napster. And so computers were kind of starting to be used at home for production, and there was little programs like Acid Pro 1, and it was called Fruity Loops at the time. It wasn't called FL, it was called Fruity Loops. And even before this though, I was like dubbing tapes and trying to like get breaks from like different parts in rap songs and trying to make my own instrumentals, and then making remixes through dubbing tapes. Like I'd have like multiple tape players, and I would like hook them up, like Jimmy rig them with odd auxiliary cables. So like when kids were going to the store to get candy when they were 11, I was going to like Radio Shack to get like splitters and like weird adapters, you know, with my allowance money. So I was doing that, and then the programs came when my dad gave me a computer. I had money for a college fund, and I was like, can I use some of it to buy a computer? And computers were like $1,000, $1,500 for like a garbage computer back then, right? This is 97. So I got a computer, got these like little hacked programs, started downloading instrumentals when Napster came available, and it was just like building. I just like started like crazy, just downloading samples, staying up all night downloading samples, and just making beats. They were garbage at first. They were terrible. Like for years, I just was just making garbage, and then kind of rapping to them by myself, and then kind of just met people and went from there.
Wow. So what initially made you want to go and buy these? Like, you must have had something originally at home like a catalyst that made you want to go and like buy more equipment, right? Like what was it that very first made you, like you got the Bone Thugs record, and then what was like the
Bone
next
Thugs record, and then I got really into like No Limit Records and like Master P and all that, and I saw how they like just put records out. And I watched like videos of them, like they had DVDs they would release of them like working in the studio, and like it was so cool. They had their keyboards, and like it was just so like gritty, and like it just like it was something I wanted to do. And then I was listening to like DJ shows that were on like certain like weird, I can't remember the ones, but there was like the Crispy Biscuit that was on. That was like a SFU radio station, and I would listen to that, and there was DJs cut, and like, you know, like they were just like they were making songs on the spot, and I was just like, I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to do that, right? So yeah, that's kind of the catalyst.
Yeah, man. I have similar memories of, you know, being fascinated by when I first discovered hip hop as an art form and as a culture, and just it was so new, it was so exciting, it was so different, and I wanted to learn everything that I could about it, you know, and for me it was emceeing was the very first thing. You mentioned Acid Pro a moment ago, and I'm pretty sure that was
Foundry.
the very first application or DAW that we would have used like back in the day. And do you remember a rapper named Benefit?
No.
He had the Super Mario Brothers rap and If I Owned a Midget and
Super Mario Bros. Rap.
yeah. He raps about how
remember
Mario is like trying to save the
Are these
princess.
like Napster? This is Napster
He
rap?
was like the first famous Napster rapper.
This is like AZN Pride. Like, you remember that stuff? Got Rice?
Yeah, for sure.
Around that same time.
That
Yeah, okay,
same record,
cool.
that was a huge record.
was
We
a huge
had
record.
all those lyrics memorized. So anyhow, yeah. So discovering Napster rappers and you know whatever, I don't know. It was my cousin was the engineer back then, and you know had the computer, and we had one of those like secretary USB pencil mics, and just download beats off of, you know, Kazaa probably or LimeWire, and then used Acid Pro to sort of like make our demos, and it was basically just famous beats and us just fucking around and writing raps and
Yeah,
and I'll never forget like the first, you know, sleepover, probably 13 years old, and we stayed up the entire night just making raps and recording. It was like the most fun we'd ever had. And 20 years later, I'm still doing it, which is crazy. It was just such a powerful experience that I haven't stopped. And it's just like, I never imagined I'd be here having a conversation with you 20 years later, hosting a podcast, but like all just following that dream, following that passion all those years has led me to so many cool, opened so many great avenues. So anyhow, back in the day, Acid Pro, LimeWire, making raps, and that was just the most fun we'd ever had, man. I didn't start making beats until I got a MacBook Pro, maybe 5, 6, 7 years later, where I'd actually started making like original material. But I was never, you know, as skilled as you are actually like sampling and programming drums. We were using GarageBand, which was phenomenal for what it was, but it was
Stock loops in
stock loops that you just throw into the session. And
there? Did they have like expansion packs, or was it just...
yeah, they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were really cool. We talked about this I think on the episode with Charles a couple weeks ago. And yeah, man, it was primitive as hell, but then they were on CDs, of course. Like, and you could go out to the store and buy the expansion
Didn't
packs.
PlayStation have a game where you can make beats?
Really?
Yeah, it did, man. I think me and my homie Cope, my dude Cope Aesthetic, he's a battle rapper
Yeah.
with Illegitimate. And yeah, I think he used that as well. PlayStation had a beat maker.
PlayStation beat maker.
Yeah, PlayStation 1.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm going to have to do a YouTube dive on that and look into that because that sounds crazy. Yeah.
But it's really basic. Like, you had loops and you kind of could like play them in 2-bar sections or like cut
Okay.
them up. Yeah.
And then you're using the D-pad, I guess, to sequence it or something.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really awkward.
I got to
like,
see that. Yeah, must have been awkward.
Yeah. But yeah, then from there, kind of meeting people, and then I got like given a really cool opportunity. I mean, I was like a little shit and just getting into trouble, and this kind of like landed me like with this like youth counselor, Tamim, and he like got to know me for a little bit, just like they were just trying to keep me busy. Basically, I was just like getting into stuff, and they were just trying to keep me busy in my school. And this is the community center. It's part of the community center, and he worked like in the Richmond area, and he had like use of a bunch of different community centers in the Richmond area. And he just like, I think I was like 16, and he just let me start to throw shows.
No way.
Yeah, so I just got to throw like all ages shows. They got rowdy and like kids would sneak alcohol in it, but it was like the most hip hop thing ever.
Yeah.
Like I got to like in like a city like Richmond where there's no hip hop. Like the only shows I got to perform when I was like 16 was like sneak into a rave that was like a legal rave in a Planet Laser and van, and like get in trouble the next day for my parents for not being home, right? Like that was all I got, right? Like I didn't get to go to like there was no hip hop. It was in Richmond, right? So like just being able to throw these shows, and like that's kind of where Illegitimate started, and kind of how we formed, and just throwing these shows at community centers. There'd be like 200 kids packed in these community centers, man. It was crazy. We'd charge money. We'd make money. Like I was like 16 years old making like money, and like it was crazy. Yeah.
That's incredible. It makes me think about like hip hop's origins, right? That was was a community activity to get people out of gangs and out of crime, right? And people come in and break dance and there'd be DJs and stuff. And for you, it was similar, right? Because you had a counselor trying to keep you out of trouble.
Kind of like a big brother, kind of in a way. He was like a cool dude. He was a rapper himself.
Oh, really?
And he rapped in a group called Threat from Outer Space.
Cool name.
Yeah, check them out. They're really cool. They're like a hip hop band, like the Roots kind of. They're really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
No way. Yeah. So it gave you that like vehicle, hey, to just be, and what a great outlet. And so how long did you do that for? Were you putting on the shows?
Only like probably like a year and a half or so. And then, now I'm like 18, 19, I can go to shows downtown.
Right.
At that time it was Monday Night Live was going on, and I think I had just done my first album with Anonymous. It's like my dude. I've been like working with him since day one. Yeah.
So when did you get into producing full time and come up with the name Sythe and sort of take us to the next phase after that? Like from 18 onwards, are you deciding I want to make beats full time? Or are you still like I like rapping a bit, I like doing shows, I just like this? Or where's your head at that point? Like, am I gonna
at that point
pursue this fully?
At that point I mean, looking at it now, I wasn't taking it seriously at all.
Yeah.
I was using it more as like a way to party.
I see.
Yeah. And just like maybe like an ego filler. I wasn't really doing it properly back then. Like I really wasn't. And I wasted a lot of time. But yeah, I mean, I got like, I created my name. My name was Chronic Sythe back then. I don't know why I was calling myself Chronic Sythe. I like the Grim Reaper, like the whole Sythe thing. Chronic, I guess, was like a weed thing because I was like just a stoner kid.
Yeah.
But I cut that, and it's just Sythe now. For years, only a few people know Chronic Sythe. It's in my email, obviously. But
okay.
But yeah, I just teamed up with like my crew, like Anonymous, Copacetic, Azrael Raps Good, and we were doing shows like all the time in Vancouver, man. Like from 2005 on to 2010, it was just shows, nonstop.
And what was your involvement other than actually promoting? Are you performing are you DJing in some capacity at these shows?
I don't DJ at all. I'm just like more of just like a in the lab producer.
Right.
But no, I was on stage. I was either like, if it was just me and Anon performing, which it usually was, me and Anonymous, then it was usually like he was doing most of the rap, but I was like the hype guy. I was like the beat maker hype guy.
Nice. Yeah.
Classic role, right? And sometimes we had a DJ.
Yeah.
Extra hype guy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was usually the format.
And so this is you and your crew performing plus bringing on, like putting together a bill of other acts as well and making a whole night out of it?
Sometimes I'd be the promoter. Sometimes it would just be like an event that was already going on. Probably 50-50.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me more about the Illegitimate. That's a label. You've also got a website there. You're one of the founders then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me, Anonymous, and Nicky Scarfo. Anonymous is a rapper. Nicky Scarfo was another producer. And we all kind of like, the first album we made was Anonymity, which is Anonymous's first album. It's got a green cover and 16 tracks, and we kind of just share production on that.
Okay.
We literally like split it in half, and we produced a couple tracks together as well. And that was like the first album we ever did. And it was recorded and mixed on Bona Island by my uncle Rob Bailey. He's like it's weird because it was his first time doing like mix. He's mixed, and he's an older guy, and he's mixed tons of rock records, and he's a touring rock musician, but he's never like seen hip hop before. Mm-hmm. So like for him to mix it and bring his like kind of rock identity onto it was a totally different thing.
Oh, dope.
I'll link you the album. You can hear it. You can tell it's kind of like a very, like we're trying to figure out what's going on, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. But it was a learning curve for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the first kind of professionally product that we put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now, I mean, it looks like you guys have expanded to other countries and
every time we've like traveled somewhere, because all of it, like Anonymous is from Italy, so he's got family in Europe, so he went to Europe and ended up in Holland, where he met Riskant, which is another member in our group. He's Dutch, and we met our breakdancing homie Heiko out there. He's also Dutch, and then when I was like in my like mid 20s, I went to Australia, just like vacation styles, and lived there for a year, and but went out there still like knowing some hip hop people that I had done some work with online through like Yahoo Chat back in the day, and we made connections out there. A bunch of guys from Illegitimate came out there. Like we've all kind of like gone to a place and all kind of conjugated there, and then picked up a member. Like Butta is one of our like Australian members, right? Like we just kind of pick up people, and
I see.
Yeah, it's just a crew of like, it's a crew of rappers. We're not really a label. It's more of like a production team.
Okay.
Crew of rappers. We all make different albums, and we all kind of help each other with those albums. But everybody's kind of just doing their own thing.
I was gonna ask because it gave me label vibes when I went to the website, but I was trying to figure out exactly like what the I guess the objective of it all was. But I guess, like you said, it's just a collaborative,
just like a brotherhood kind of.
Yeah, that's
club.
very cool. What's it like co-producing with someone else?
It's hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard. You just want to grab the mouse sometimes, or whatever, the keyboard, right? You're just like,
well, that
sometimes.
What does that look like? Is that someone does sampling, someone does drums, or
I think
two
that's what
people
you
do drums? Or?
I think that's what you have to do, but also like be open to like suggestions, right? Like, hey, what if we did it like that, or maybe it'd work like that, and then try it out and be like, hey, actually that does work really good, right? Like, you got to be open, like
totally.
It's got to be the right person. Like my dude Nicky Scarfo, we made a beat. Like he's back in town. He's usually in Italy, but he's back in town. And last weekend we made a few beats together, and it was great. Like we'll trade off. Like I'll do the sample chops. He'll do the drums. We just switch seats back and forth, right?
Nice. Oh, like in the same room.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Not like
that's the way I like to do it.
Right. Like a session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah. Like you're in the studio. Let's make something from scratch tonight. Yeah. Yeah.
Some rappers like writing like that too. There's a lot of rappers, like old school rappers, that like they have to be in the studio.
Yeah.
Is that pressure, I guess? That creative energy, maybe?
From my experience, I never understood that, because from someone who's just been an engineer for 15 years, whatever, 20, I mean, I don't know how long, more than a decade, been recording other people, right? But I get that part of it. I get that you want to come to the studio and you want to switch in I'm in my creative mode now. I've left my construction boots at home and my hard hat, and now I got the pen and pad.
There's no excuse right now. Yeah.
However, the thing that has drove me the most crazy over the years as an engineer is when people book time, come to the studio with nothing, not even a beat picked out. And it's like a 2-hour of just like, maybe nothing even happens. And I'm sitting there in the chair, just on Instagram.
Yeah, it's boring for you, but I mean, I hope you're getting paid, right?
I'm getting paid. I'm always getting paid. I don't do sessions for free, but
it is boring though.
I guess what, I've seen so many people over the years just try this out. I'm going to try, and they saw somebody online, or they saw on the internet, like big artists in the studio, and like, oh, that looks fun, let's go to the studio, and it turns into a party, and they're bringing friends to the studio, and there's drinks, and there's eventually girls showing up, and it's like, are we gonna make some music? It's more of just like an ego flexing thing. We're just like, oh yeah, roll up, we're at the studio, and is anyone gonna rap tonight?
Yeah, and to tie it back in, that's how I felt when I was doing these shows. It was just like get up there, do your thing, and then all the homies high fives on the way out, right? It just felt like an ego thing, and it's like now I feel like I think that's a maturity thing though too, right?
It's a maturity thing, and it's an experience thing. I mean, there's definitely room for someone to come to this session and write on the spot and be creative, but those people have put in the reps, and they've got like their art like refined. I don't know how people think that they can just come and just magic's gonna happen out of nowhere. And I guess I'm jaded because I saw it so many times for so many years and just drove me crazy and very frustrated. And it's just like people just sometimes leave with literally nothing, like mumbling into the mic, and that was like a 2-hour session, and then they go home and I'm like, hey, next time, like from the most genuine, good-natured place ever, write them an email, follow up. Maybe next time, before you book your session, have a beat picked out, write some lyrics, maybe try practicing those lyrics, memorize those lyrics, so when you come to your session, you can have a productive time. When you're first starting out, that's gotta be the way that you do it. But people that are doing it 10, 15 years, yeah, sure, come to the studio and like vibe off of each other, collaborate, write, put on a random beat. And because I know I've been around people that are like incredible freestylers, or people that have been emceeing like 20 years and just
write stuff. They can write stuff in their head.
Write stuff in their head, or I got I was lucky enough to engineer Northside Benji when I was at 2-Track, and he just came in because he was doing a feature for someone, and this dude just like in the booth coming up with lines, and he kind of like 4 bars at a time, and then we'd punch in, and he just like played a beat, and then he just like, you'd see his eyes go up, like he's imagining things, hearing it, boom.
I did a
Try
project
it 2 times, maybe 3rd time he's got it, and then we just 4 bars.
Nice.
Killy was like that as well.
Yeah, I did a project with my dude Azrael, and he did. It was our first project together called Pocket Watch. It was all jazzy, and I would make the beat, and while I was making the beat, he'd need about a half hour, and he'd get the verse down, and then he'd jump in. We do the verse. He'd come out. He'd sit there while I was like messing around still and like putting drops in his verse and like still tinkering with my beat. Excuse me, and he'd write the hook, and then he'd write the second verse, and we did that for like 12, 13 songs. It was
Incredible.
crazy to see it work like that.
Yeah,
and
really
like
efficient.
intricate rhymes, like not just like rhyming cat with hat, like just very intricate rhymes,
Yeah.
It's amazing. But again, years.
Right.
Years.
Making it look easy.
Right.
And so that when other people see it and it looks easy, they think they can go into the session with nothing prepared.
We live in a world right now
happen.
where anybody can do it, right? Like,
yeah. Well, there's so many. There's just like the worst recipe ever, because we're in the goddamn participation trophy generation.
Like, you can get a fire emoji for nothing nowadays, like
that shit slaps for no reason. and then like Will Smith said. Will Smith, one of my favorite quotes. He said that racism's not getting worse; it's just getting filmed. And that's the same with everything else. Everything else is getting filmed. So like we see XYZ artist in the studio showcasing 20 years of being in the studio, making it look effortless. And I gotta book a session, man. I gotta be that. Like I gotta try that. It's gonna be easy. So anyhow, just my 2 cents on the matter.
Well, it's interesting. It is interesting because like just talking about like beginners and people wanting to get into it, right? Like you must get a lot of people that like want to do something because they think it might be cool. Like you must get like a lot of like just very like new hobbyists.
That's 100% what it was.
I get some too, but I don't have to sit with them. They'll just buy a beat and they'll just never do anything with it.
Yeah.
But you really have to like see them through it.
I don't anymore, and I really, really, really try and filter people out. Because I saw that for so many years, and it made me very sad. It really made me sad. I'm in a new studio now. I've been here for a year. I'm really focusing on my craft, which is mixing, trying to be the best engineer that I can be, so that everyone so when a project like the Manco project comes out, they get the best beats possible, they get the best label, they get the best person for each job, right? And I'm trying to be the best person for my job. But there are still occasions where people that I've known over the years that I trust, yes, we'll book a session. Like, yes, I'm available to record, but I'm not trying to be known as I'm not just 9 to 5ing SoundCloud rappers anymore, you know, or just like you said, the people that want to try it out. I can't do that. I'll do anything else other than that.
This is your full time right now?
No,
Okay.
I still do. I still have a part-time job, for when, you know, just help spread it out because, for example, March right now, having one of the busiest months on record, and January, February, I was like, not a lot going on.
Oh, like music? You mean like recording wise?
Mixing of
Yeah, that
people
makes
sending
sense.
me projects.
That makes sense.
And it's always like, it's never even, right? It's always, so
When
yeah.
it rains, it pours a lot with this stuff.
It's like, where were you guys a month ago? Like, no, there's all of you emailing me at once. Anyhow, that's c'est la vie. But having
good problem to have. Good problem to have.
Having a part-time job really helps because it helps me with the slower months and even things out. And I've got a great work-life balance. And
What do you do? What's your other job? If you don't mind me asking. Oh, nice.
yeah, and I do inventory.
Sweet.
I've been with the company almost 10 years now. Amazing. I don't even know if I can be talking about it on the show, but we could talk about it after if you
Okay.
want. Anyhow,
You got shares.
I do. I have shares. Stock. So, where was I going with all that? Anyhow, yeah. So, mixing, filtering out, and I'm, because I do have a good part-time job and you know, balance things out over these years, I'm in a position where I can be picky now. I don't, you know, for example, a couple weeks ago, someone sent me a project to master and they were MP3s. And I said, no, well, I'm not mastering an MP3 that's already clipping.
Were they at least 320?
Were they at least, that's already clipping and like, what am I, so.
Oh, it's clipping too?
It was like -6 LUFS. I'm like, what am I doing with this? It's distorted. So, but you know, me, I don't know, few years ago would have just been like, yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay making less money and being pickier about the work that I do now, and I'm fine with that. It's just a decision that I've made for my own health, my own sanity. I'm not really looking to be burnt out and overworked and saying yes to every single thing just so that I can be busy. I chose this. So I should be enjoying it, right?
Totally.
And that's my attitude now, my new attitude, my you know, 1 year now in this new space. And yeah, it's just, I'm trying to enjoy this as much as I possibly can. That's just that's my mantra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How is the beat making business? How are you busy? Where are you selling most of your beats? How is it getting new clients? Are you actively seeking out new people to sell beats to? Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, the beat selling business is great. Like if you're like a starting out producer, I suggest you like get serious about it and like, you know, put a lot into it, because you can make some, like there's a lot of people that want to buy beats online, and there's still a lot of people doing it, but there's still a lot of space for people, new people to sell beats. It's crazy. It's been going really well. The last few months have been like my best. It's just been kind of snowballing,
Yeah.
you know, as projects come out and people hear you, they hear what like can be done on your beats, you know. So people need proof sometimes, right? Like when I took a bunch of time off doing beats, like 6 or 7 years when I was having my kids, and just like I was like, I'm never gonna make music again. Like I was
really?
burnt out, and I burnt out from not really, like I didn't really give it. Like in my 20s, I didn't really give it. Like I was saying, I was just partying, but I was just burnt out. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I wasn't in love with it anymore, and then I just stopped, and then I got back into it like 3 years ago, and it's just been like go, and like it's taken 3 years for it to get here, but like, and working every single day on the beats, but like it's finally like starting to kind of pay off now, and starting to be like a nice enough chunk where I'm like, yeah, that's a part-time income, you know what I mean?
That's so cool to hear that.
Yeah.
I have another producer friend, I could probably say his name, Friday Love, who, you know, I don't see him as often as I'd like, but he's like, when I asked him how he was doing last, he's like, I don't have a day job anymore. I'm making beats for a living. Like, I'm selling my beats. There's so many people want beats. Like you said, the market is out there. How cool is that? Make it just at home, just cooking and just selling beats online.
There's so many avenues. There's people with podcasts. Like, everybody has a podcast now, right? So like they want an intro song. I got a few contracts like that. Like,
nice.
There's people that can make documentaries now on a budget. People want music for that. Like, there's just so much going on, right? And there's so many creatives around and people inspired, and it's really fun. It's a good time.
Really cool, and in so many unique ways now to get it out there with all these social media platforms, and then talking about it on people's podcasts.
That's right. Yeah. So mostly, like, I was doing BeatStars for a while, and kind of noticed, like, maybe my beats aren't really the right kind for that. I kind of have a niche sound, so I was like, I don't really want to do type beats, you know? So I was like, I don't think BeatStars and leasing beats is really my avenue. Like, pretty quick, I realized that, like, people wanted exclusives. Yeah. They wanted to buy a piece of art, and they wanted it to be special. And, you know, whether you're buying like a 1 of 100 record, or whether you're buying a beat from somebody, it has a lot more worth when it's just yours, right? So I'm only exclusives now. I don't really do
I like that
leases anymore.
I like that because, like, they are pieces of art, right? And it means that much more to the person buying it as well. It's like, I got a Sythe beat, like, right, this shit's mine now. Like, I put some rhymes over this, and like, look what we made. Right, no one else is touching this.
Some guys are like, oh, fuck that. You can put a beat on YouTube and put free on it, and then get it to your beats. You know, get them all to your BeatStars page. Get your Drake type beat. Get them all to your BeatStars page, and then sell them the same beat like 100 times and make way more money. But it's like, I don't want to be a factory though. Like, you know.
I respect the shit out of that, dude. That's really cool.
I wanted to be a factory for a little bit because I want a lot of money. Like, I'm very money driven at the moment. Very, like, I still love my hip hop, but I'm very, very hungry right now. Like,
there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, so Instagram, bro. Like, just doing Instagram videos, Facebook a little bit, but mostly Instagram.
Yeah, and you're super consistent with that shit.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, I respect that, man. I really admire your work ethic, and every time, like, you pop up on my feed and I watch you make a beat, and it's like, it's great. Like, you gotta, I'm always preaching this, but like, goddamn, like, consistency is such a, consistency and momentum are like they're like gravity. It's like a universal power. Like, it's an intangible thing, but it fucking has energy. Like, those things matter, man.
Yeah, man. If you just stick around, right? Like, eventually, right? Like, yeah, you know, if you go to the barbershop long enough, eventually you're gonna get a cut. Like, there's all these sayings like this, right? Like, you know,
I've heard that one. Yeah. But yeah. So, so you've been at this, at this new level for like about 3 years, hey, where you're really
like I don't even like the old stuff. I'm like, I feel like I'm a different, like, though I listen to my old beats from like years ago, like even on that album, the album I gave you, like, I'm just like, I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm just like,
I know the feeling.
I've come to like it's a maturity thing, right? Like, I wasn't making music for 6 or 7 years. I was just like, just doing my thing, being dad, being a husband, just working, and just being very like, come home, do the dinner thing, watch sports, like, I was being dad for 6, 7 years. And I was just like, I wasn't really talking to any friends. I was just like, really just with my family, just doing me, but not really doing me at the same time. And I don't know, like, I think just before COVID, like, I went and bought like a Xbox One or something, and I was starting to play it, and I had the headset, and I was playing like whatever Gears of War, like whatever Call of Duty, and I was just dorking out so hard, and I was just like, what am I doing?
What
am I doing?
Getting creative right now.
And I just like, something like just switched, and I just went, I've told the story a bunch of times, right? People are sick of hearing the story maybe, but you haven't heard it. And then I just like, I went downstairs and I just like loaded up my old like 2009 iMac that my pops gave me. Still runs, still do beats on it to this day. And I downloaded FL, and I got like the starter edition. I paid for it. I didn't have to hack it because I'm a grown man now. I have money, and I started making beats again. But I feel like those 7 years off like gave me a patience and an understanding, and just like, it's like I was making music that whole time, and learning, but I wasn't making music that whole time. I was just like learning to see things differently, to look at things through a different lens. I was like a different person.
Yeah. And now, right? And then you've got that experience to bring into the art,
right?
You know,
right?
All like they always say that a rapper's debut album's the hardest one, because it's like it took Jay-Z like 25 years to make Reasonable Doubt, and then 1 year to make Volume 1. Right. You know what I mean? So that those years off like gave you fuel almost. Gave you, you know, and a shift, perspective, reset, many things.
Perspective for sure, right? Because now when I go downstairs to make music in my house, it has to be for a reason. I can't just be down there twiddling my thumbs playing video games.
Yeah.
You know, I got to be like, this has to be like, there's a reason I'm away from my family right now because I'm trying to make money at this. Like, I'm taking it very seriously. Yeah, I love it and I enjoy it. And like, there's nothing like the feeling of like when you actually like make a sick beat and like when you're like it clicks, you're like, yes, I just, you know, like trying to mess with that sample for so long, or like just trying with the melodies and like it hits and you're like, yes, like that feeling. I'm always going for that feeling. Like I'm addicted to that. But yeah, I'm very business orientated with it right now, for sure.
That's really cool. Really, really cool, man. Yeah. So, you know, keep doing that. You know, I'll be rooting for you. Definitely. I might actually be hitting you up, because I'm putting together a solo project. First one in many, many years. A lot of people don't know this about me, but you know, people know me as like Max the Mixer, but I started out, like I was saying,
you're saying you rapped,
rapping
right?
Back in the day, like, you know, sleepovers with my cousin and Acid Pro and fucking LimeWire and all that stuff. So that's how I got here. You know, I used to rap and record my own stuff, and then I started recording local friends, and one thing led to the next. But I've always maintained that skill set as an MC, and I know I've always loved writing poetry and rapping and rhymes, and so I've in my spare time I've taken it upon myself to go through my hard drives and dig up old songs from the, you know, when I was at Nimbus and when I was in my prime, which I would consider like in my early 20s, when I was rapping like full time and ciphering and all that, and just and I've found some of those things and been like, God damn, my mixing's pretty good now. Like if I went and polished that record up and released it, it could be special. So some of them I've kept the original recordings on my Audio Technica AT2020 and just mixed them again, and some I've re-recorded as recently as a few months ago, and I think I still got the flow, man. It might even be better than it used to be, you know, just because I'm more mature now and I've learned my voice a little bit better. I'm a little more comfortable in my 30s.
Yeah, totally, now. Man. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Confidence is huge.
And for a rapper, confidence is the number one thing.
Yeah, because they have to believe it, or else, yeah.
Prodigy from Mobb Deep's not the most technical rapper ever, but I think he's the most confident rapper that ever lived. He, you know, when you hear him, it's not lyrically impressive, but it's like his tone is just
Sean
like,
P too. I gotta put Sean P up there too.
Okay.
With like confidence and like just like, wow, you can really say a word.
Totally. It's just conviction.
Yeah.
So feel like that's at an all-time high. So anyhow.
Nice. What's your rap name?
Max Deshaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Max Deshaw. There's only one. You can Facebook me. Not on Facebook anymore, but anyhow. Got some old beats, made some beats for myself. Tons of friends in Victoria where I grew up. There was a pretty good budding hip hop scene in Victoria, and I have some beats from friends there, and so a few spots left on the record. So, you know, maybe if the time is right, I'll get
what's the feel
original
of the record?
Piece from Sythe. It's very jazz and R&B, like light, just like fun, jazzy R&B. Not dark, just
bouncy or like boom bappy. What's the
boom bappy?
Boom bappy.
Boom bappy. Like think like Tribe Called Quest.
So like 90 BPM boom bappy.
Yeah.
Straight time. Like
yeah, that's the feeling.
Okay.
That's the feeling. Definitely.
House party vibes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a good time. I'm just trying. The majority of the lyrical content is from a time when I was in my 20s, and living that life and just, you know.
Isn't it weird to say raps from like when you're like, that'd be so weird to like say raps.
Yeah.
Like there's certain songs that like I won't perform now because like the raps are just from like a 19-year-old me. And
From
I
a
just
different
like,
time.
I can't say that.
From a different time, but I'm not embarrassed by it for some reason.
Okay.
There's stuff that I'm embarrassed by, what like early shit where I'm like, I didn't have my flow yet. But like I said, this was from an era where I felt like I was in my prime, and I go back to that shit, and I'm like, 33-year-old me is like, that's hot. Like I fuck with that still. So I'm giving a bunch of it a fresh coat of paint, and I'm putting it out hopefully this summer.
Sick.
I can't wait. So I've been working on that in my spare time in between mixing other people's records, and it's been really, really fun.
Are you gonna mix it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of it's, well, I've been tweaking it over the years already, but I'm not about to hand it off to somebody else to mix and master.
Not even to master it?
I've thought about that. Yeah. But,
Just another set of ears.
it could be worth it. Mastering's such a strange thing, man. I like the Manco.
It's a real
project,
sound. It,
I
like,
mixed
puts
and
a sound
mastered
on it,
and
yeah.
mixed and mastered myself, and I know that there is value in like getting the right mastering engineer, but I've also had the wrong mastering engineer a few times, or
And
just
then you've already paid for it.
and I've already paid for it, or just like something that, you know, maybe when I wasn't as good at mixing and didn't understand the art as much, I know that my friends and I would lean on mastering because we didn't know how to get shit to sound loud, or we just like our mixes didn't sound good. So we're like, oh, once it's mastered, it'll sound great. I don't want that from my mixes. I just want, like you said, just a second set of ears, like half a dB of some EQ, and then like print it. You know, like if I was gonna get it mastered, that's what I would do. And I know
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I don't want
If you have a
somebody
good
to change
mix,
my record.
you don't need a crazy master.
You don't need a lot. And if somebody's doing a ton to your master, that's not a good mastering engineer as far as I'm concerned. Like it should just be transparent. It should be like
Totally.
a little tiny bit. So yeah, mastering is a hot topic. I don't know.
I usually get the same guys that mix the record to master it. So
yeah.
typically.
Yep. And you know, I've got my Genelec sound system now. It's a $10,000 setup with the sub, and like these speakers sound phenomenal. And I've learned this room pretty good over the last year. And as you can see, there's like quite a bit of treatment in there. So I'm not even doing car checks really in the last, I don't know, like I listened to the Manco album when it was finished in the car, but I wasn't like going to the car to make sure that things were in check. Like I hear everything I need to hear on this system, so we'll see. If the budget's there, yeah, maybe I'll send it to like Sterling Sound or some like tip top mastering, you know, Chris Athens or somebody like that. But I'm not just gonna hand it off so somebody can like wreck ball my mix, as Michael Brower says. I don't need that. I know what I'm doing now, I think. At least, or better than I ever have. So I'm confident in my sound, you know.
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, I'm gonna try and get like one or two more spots on the album for some beats, and we'll see. It'd be cool to have a Sythe beat.
Fuck
maybe.
yeah, bro.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about your setup at home. You've got
Basic.
the Yamahas, I think I saw. You've got
Yamahas.
the HS8s, or
They're like sixes.
sixes. Okay.
And I had a sub like below me, like which is not a great place. I kind of would like it back, you know, 3 or 4 feet, but
makes a big difference.
I kind of have
even like a few inches.
Like I just put my feet up on it, like I just like it's right there.
Yeah, I take my, when I'm mixing, I take my shoe off, put my, if you guys could see this,
Get a foot massage.
and I check the sub and I listen at really low levels, and okay, is the energy moving right? That's actually how I check my low end. Take my shoe off. Really makes it's incredible what you can tell from like a lot of engineers say they would like touch the drivers of their NS10s, and I get that now. Like actually touch my sub with my foot and I can like feel the low end, right? It's interesting. So you've got those, and
Got that. I got a Scarlett. Like I'm just like
okay.
I'm just a home producer. Like it's
Yeah.
just like
No, but I'm trying to get at, I think, is what is your sampler? Tell me about that.
Well, I'm doing everything on the computer. Like I don't have any analog gear at all.
Oh, well, what are you sequencing with, like when you're doing your videos though?
That's just like an Akai MPK.
Oh, okay.
There's no sounds inside of it. It's just a
yeah,
controller.
well, it's a controller.
It's
yeah,
a controller.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was using like an M Audio one.
When you're actually making, are you doing that just for the videos, or are you actually playing your beats with that? Like, or are you just drag and dropping in your computer? Like,
I'm definitely lip syncing. Like when I made that beat, I did those actions.
yeah.
For that video, I'm not actually making the beat.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's a performance.
Well, videos, yeah, like because you do your daily video, right?
Every couple days, I try to do 2 a week. But that's a performance.
It's a performance.
It's a performance. The audio's dubbed in. Does that kill it for you?
No, not at all. Not at all. But tell me a little bit more about what you're doing in the computer.
Well, I use FL Studio.
FL. Okay.
That's basically all I use with like a whole bunch of VSTs, but I go pretty light on the effects. I just like over the years I've learned to just be really good at picking sounds.
Super important.
And like picking quality kicks and snares, knowing what samples to sample, and then like what drums to use with these samples. Like just that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that.
My ear is like I think my most used tool.
Totally. Yeah, man. Keep it simple. Like fuck.
Yeah.
One of the most the biggest mix breakthroughs I ever had was I heard a fellow engineer's mix and I was so impressed, and I hit him up and I said, can I come to your studio? You gotta show me what you did on this mix. Like I'm so curious. He's like, yeah, sure. Like Uncle Ricky, shout out to Uncle Ricky. It was he was kind enough to invite me over, sat me down, showed me the session, and I was expecting to see like fancy plugins, like some latest shit I hadn't seen yet on his mix bus, and like all this like cool.
What's this cool new thing I have to go buy now from Plugin Boutique?
Like all this, I had a budget ready for like when I left, like all the new stuff I had to get. FabFilter Pro L2 on the mix bus, and just bare minimum. I couldn't believe it.
Reverb when you needed it, right? Like,
but just like the salt and pepper, just a great steak and salt and pepper. You know what I mean? And
right.
and he said what you said. He said it's all about sample selection. He's like, get good kicks and snares, get good sounds, get a great synth, put these pieces together, and they fucking speak for themselves, man. And that was such an eye-opening experience. Obviously, when I'm mixing, I don't have the choice to pick what sounds are sent to me. But for people listening, and if you're producing at home or you're making beats with friends or whatever you're creating, like the sample selection process should take up a lot more time, because it will pay off in the end. It is so important to get good like foundation.
Yeah, you can do the whole like, you know, magic trick where you pick the hardest sample to sample and you make this amazing miraculous flip out of this trash music that you sampled, or these trash drums, and like, look what I can do. But like, are we trying to do that, or are we trying to make like the best music possible, right?
You want it
like,
to sound sonically impressive, right? Ultimately.
So like you should use the best sounds possible, right? In my opinion, like,
oh my God, yeah.
It's fun doing like the circus thing, but like, I don't know, I just, you know.
What do you mean the circus thing?
Like you'll see guys like do like the impossible flips, right? Online, like
tell me more. What is this?
Well, you see guys like they'll just do like, I can only use this record, and I'm gonna get the drums from this record. They have the 3 records,
they try and
like
purposely
the roulette,
limit themselves.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Okay.
But like, that's just a circus trick, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's just for views. That's just a performance,
right,
really. Like,
right.
Cool. Or it's like when people are, I mean, engineers will do that. They're like, okay, you have to mix this with only the stock Pro Tools plugins. Like, hopefully that song doesn't get released, but maybe that's a good practice, you know, a good mental exercise. Are you, what VSTs and plugins are you favoring these days?
I like Ozone basically like lives on my master.
Okay.
I use that a lot, like the maximizer and the limiters. But not a lot. That's just like, that's a loudness thing, right?
So when you print it and someone hears the beat,
rappers want to hear a loud beat, right?
Right.
Like if they're playing a bunch of beats in the studio and your beat's the quiet beat, like, well, nobody's writing to that one,
yes.
right? Like,
yeah, that is still a factor we can't really escape, the loudness factor.
even though at the end of the day, when I send it off to somebody for mix, if I'm doing my job, I shouldn't be sending it even like there should be a lot of headroom, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, -3, -6, somewhere in there. And like, I'm sure you'd like to have that. I bet the ones that you got from me are like, they're like 3 years old. So like they might've been like pretty sloppy on my part. I feel like I'm doing things a little bit different. We're learning. We're like always learning, right? Like every year something changes, right? So
yeah, I mean, ultimately in Pro Tools, I can just clip gain it down. And usually I do that, like no matter what, when I get a beat, I'll just turn every sample down by like 8 dB so that when I'm mixing and adding stuff up, I'm not freaking out the stereo bus right away, right? Like you need to actually turn shit down first to give it the potential to make it louder later.
Exactly. And it's easier to mix with low volumes, right? Like it's just...
Yeah, you hear better. You know,
I used to make beats like with the volume crank. Now I make it like real low.
Oh yeah, I mix with my speakers like 2 notches above the very lowest that they go. And if I can make the song clear, the vocals clear, you can hear everything at like that low. Imagine how awesome it's going to sound.
Yeah, the turn up is like, there's always going to be that possibility, right? You got to like leave that room, right?
Yeah, so leave yourself some space, definitely.
Yeah, man.
I'm curious about drum sounds, because one thing I've noticed with a couple of songs that I'm mixing right now is the usual processing that I'll do on the drums is making them worse, and I can't think of anything else that it might be other than the fact that those samples are sent to me already with a lot of processing.
I was just going to say that. You're probably like, are you dealing with like breaks that have been made specifically for hip hop? I use a lot of AJ Hall breaks, and he's already put in he's like a professional drummer in the States. I don't know if you ever heard of him, AJ Hall.
I haven't, no.
He's great, man.
Okay.
I use his breaks a lot, and but he puts like some of his, like he puts a lot of processing on it.
Yeah, there's
like
quite
he's
a
already
bit of
putting it through like
stuff.
compression. He's putting it through like a tape, right? Like he's already doing a lot of work for you. So like,
when
you get that,
layering a bunch of plugins on it and it starts to sound brittle and it's breaking up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got to rethink this. Like maybe this actually sounds better with way less shit. And turns out the last couple records that I just worked on, I took so much stuff off because I'm usually working hard to like get density and saturate and make things thicker and fuller, and then
so the vocals don't sound like they're on top, right? You want everything to just be
you want everything. Well, you want the whole thing to just sound impressive, really, and saturation is a big part of that. But some of these samples that are sent to me, especially on like did a couple of like electronic-y like house records, and like there's some hi-hat and clap samples in one file, and I should have known better. I mean, I look at these things and they're like flatlined, like there's a lot of shit going on them already, right? And you know, but everything that I did to them made them worse because it was already, like you said, compressed, tape, saturation, all this stuff from the person who made those samples, putting them out in packs, sending them to people. So that's something to watch out for.
And the beat maker might have done more stuff to it.
Yeah.
Like it's just
right. So for you, do you have a rule about that, or what's your philosophy on it when you're making beats and sending them out? Like when you're making stems, like will you process? Like you said, you've got ozone on the master bus for
that comes off. That comes off on the stems.
Yeah.
That's not even a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so the breaks that you're getting, in that example, you're probably not doing anything to it.
I chop them.
You just chop it up.
I chop them, and I'm processing them myself,
much.
and I might throw like a reverb on the snare. I might throw some, like, if they're dry, if there's just a break and they're dry, I might throw some saturation like on the kick to give it, like, fill it up more space. Yep. I'm not really doing much, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it goes
if I'm EQ and I'm taking away,
sure.
Sometimes like I'm not boosting the lows in the kick. I'm trying to pick a kick that already has that.
Yes. Yeah. That hits at that certain frequency. Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. Pick your ingredients.
Yeah,
and,
man.
and the same goes for recording too. Like,
So much like cooking. It's so much like I cook a lot, but it's so
yeah,
much like
so
cooking,
do I.
man.
And every single time I'm just like, wow, this is so much like mixing.
And
Or
you can
like-
give and it's like you can give, and like the ear is like the recipe. Like you can give everybody the same recipe, but nobody's gonna make the same thing because the hand is so important.
Yeah.
and the ear is the hand, right?
Yeah.
Like in music. So like it's just.
I think of that analogy often as well. Like, you know, you can sit down and watch Jamie Oliver and he's going to have all the ingredients laid out in bowls on the show and you can cook with him, but he's going to kick yours ass because he's got the, you know,
The feel,
the hand
just
and the feel and
knows
the experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, that's why I'm not personally like shy or afraid of giving out like secrets or mixing advice. Like you see my Instagram and it's every day, like anything cool that I figure out, I just share it. Like I'm just throwing this knowledge out, getting excited about it. Cause I don't believe in like keeping things and having secrets and stuff. It's cause I know that's what it's like. It's just like a cooking show, man. It's like we could both have the same starting point, but we're going to end with different results, right?
You got to do the time. Like you really got to do the time.
Put the time in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like anything.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, this is craft. It's the art. And the cooking and, you know, and like recording, like I was saying a minute ago is that's feedback that I give to a lot of younger artists that send me stuff. Is I'll even go as far as like having like FaceTime conversations with some of them to like show them how to set the microphone preamp, because some of the sounds I get are microscopic waveforms and I can hear like the fire truck outside their apartment as loud as the vocal, right? Because they're not,
Right.
you're not setting up your recording space correctly. And so it's making me have to work 10 times harder as opposed to finding the right kick sample, taking your time, picking your ingredients, taking your time, recording properly. It's all about like the fundamentals and getting the things right in the beginning, and then things just fall into place so much nicer after that.
Absolutely. But yeah, back to the setup. Yeah, I would like to get a little bit of analog equipment. Like I've always loved to, like, you know, maybe get an SP. You know, maybe like 1200. Like maybe get an MPC just to have, like, they have like a warmth to them, right? They have like a crunch to them. The amount of like saturation, like volume you can get out of them is just like. It's crazy.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Like, they're a piece of hardware, right? They have their own preamp, and they just like.
Do they really?
They have a sound, especially the SP, man.
Yeah.
Like there's a little 404, I think, or whatever, and there's the bigger one.
Yeah.
But the bigger one has like so much crunch, and it's just like, for hip hop, it's just crazy.
I didn't realize that. I always thought they were just, you know, like a tool or a program, but it itself, like having the sounds go through it through the circuitry, is actually giving it a tone.
It's a studio in a box, man.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. When those first came out, like hip hop changed forever, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I love watching some of those old videos. Like, who was it? Ski, who did some beats on Reasonable Doubt, or like Premiere or Large Professor. Like there's old videos you can find them in the 90s, just like putting their patterns together, and it's just like instantly you're in New York when you hear that that sound. It's just like, oh my god, unmistakable. It's yeah, that in itself, that is an instrument, right? That's like a guitar, that's a saxophone, and it's got its own tone. And it took an artist time to learn it and perfect it and, you know, refine it, and it's a tool. So what else are you doing in FL? Where are you getting your samples from? Like the musical parts other than the drums?
I'm part of like a bunch of, like, I don't have a lot of time to like be in a record shop digging. I used to do that. I have a lot of records at home. They just collect dust as records do, because I've sampled everything. I mean, I keep them because in 10 years I could maybe make 3 or 4 beats off the same record, because I just think things differently, or see things differently, or I'm in a different headspace at the time. But like, yeah, the records that are all at home, and they've been used a lot. So I use digging services, which is like dudes that, like, you know, you can just pay and they'll hook you up with certain records of like a style that you want.
Nice.
Or like I'm into like Italian, like prog rock right now. Yeah, I do a lot of Russian shit. Like, it's just, yeah, it really depends. A lot of gospel stuff right now.
What about
But yeah, digging communities. That's what mostly.
digging communities? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
people that like love. There's so many people out there on like Facebook that like love finding like really obscure stuff.
Yeah.
They don't even care if somebody makes a beat off it. They just want to like show all the other diggers, like, hey, I
Wow,
found something on YouTube or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like, or
Yeah.
I found like a record or whatever. It's mostly on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I found a YouTube video with like 3 views, and it's like this like rare, rare Russian rip of a record, and the quality is really good. And it's like you can download the wave.
That's sick.
So like I'll download the wave from there, or a record. But yeah, there's a lot of people that think like, oh, you can't get like good sounds off YouTube, but you can. You just got to find like good quality recordings.
Yep.
And you got to get the wave.
Yes. Yeah.
But recording off like vinyl like into a good preamp is like, it's so good. That's such a nice way to like make beats, I think.
How does that work? Can you explain that a little bit? Like the process of, because I've never seen anybody do it. Like I've never seen it done, like getting the vinyl and then like loading it into the sampler.
Well, just going into a mixer, and then it's going
Yeah.
into like my Scarlett preamp. But if you had like one of your preamps, it'd probably be even better. And then if like it's a really good recording, like a lot of Japanese records that I buy, like the recording, you know, Japanese, like they do everything great. Like they make great. Their whiskey's like the best whiskey in the world right now. Sorry, America, but it's true. And like the same with their vinyl.
They're master craftsmen. Let's just put it that way.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Like structures, everything. They're just like, their culture is just so rich. So yeah, like Japanese recordings were just amazing from the 70s and 80s. Just
Never heard anyone mention that, but that's really cool. Yeah.
Oh man, Japanese soul, dude.
Oh goddamn! Now I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. Shit.
Japanese soul and Italian rock, bro.
Okay.
Italian prog rock and Japanese
wow.
soul. That's like my favorite stuff. But that's pretty common in like digging communities. Like those are pretty common. And you know, like a lot of soundtracks. I like to mess with a lot of soundtracks because they all have little sounds in it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if I'm watching TV, I'm probably sampling something from that show. Like if I'm watching like, I was watching, what was I watching the other day? Honor with, what's his name? From Breaking Bad.
No.
You don't watch TV? You're too busy, right? Yeah, I barely watch TV, but when I do, like I'm going to find something to sample. Like
Okay.
It's an HBO show anyway. Like,
Okay.
So it has like an outro. I sampled that. I made like 3 beats out of that one outro.
And how do you
won't
do
even be
that?
able to tell. Like
So how do you get the sample out of the TV into your?
It's on
computer?
YouTube.
Oh, so you're going.
So I go into
looking
YouTube,
up the
download it off
soundtrack.
YouTube,
I see.
and then I'll bring it into my Serato sample, which is a VST inside of FL Studio.
Okay.
I'm going to be switching to Serato Studio soon because they already have like their own sampler in it. And Serato Studio is crazy. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. It's really cool. It's like a real dumbed down program, but it's limited in like a really intelligent way.
Yeah.
Where it just like gets you really focused on just making beats. Like it's
Nice.
very much made for the DJ or for the hip hop producer. Like it's very much
Right on.
that kind of style. But yeah, FL Studio with Serato sample, which is like I think $200 to buy that. And their time stretch and like chopping algorithm is like the best. Like they've been doing it forever with
Right.
DJing,
Yep.
right? So like they're the best. Period. Yeah, I chop through there and then I'll just assign every chop to a keyboard or a pad. And I'm going. And I usually lay down the sample first.
Yeah.
Like you see Alchemist do. I kind of pretty much the same as like what he does. Like,
Okay.
I don't know if you ever watched the Alchemist videos,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, a couple.
So like I'll lay the sample down first and then the beat goes from there.
Because the sample itself should carry enough like rhythm that you can put it in first, right? And
Yes.
then add your drums after, right?
Because it's hip hop, it should sound choppy.
Yeah, it should
Unless
sound
you're doing
sequenced.
a loop type of a beat where you just, it's just looping. That's its own thing too, right?
Yeah.
But chopping is where I really like to get crazy.
So you hear a beat or you hear a section from a song while you're watching TV and think, do you know in that moment what piece
No.
you're going to chop, or you
No.
just feel inspired and
Yeah,
like,
it's just like
I
that's
gotta...
a really cool texture. Like, whoa, that's a cool sound.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that key. Like that. There's probably like certain keys, like for like G minor or some shit that I'm always like going to, or like E minor. Like it's usually like minor keys, but like I'll hear something and I'll just be like, oh. And I'll be like, to my wife, I'll be like, Shazam that. She's like, oh, I don't want to Shazam that again.
Yeah.
I'll be in a restaurant. I'm that guy. I'll be in a restaurant and I'll be like, to the manager, I'll be like, what's that song playing right now?
that's me, but because I like the mix, or because I'm like,
I'm gonna go
what's
home
the
and like
reverb on that vocal?
Yeah.
But I'm the same. Like everywhere I go, just I like this. My phone is just you go through my camera roll, it's just me screenshotting things that I found in the moment so that I don't forget them. Like
I'm always making like most of my beat making is not occurring in a couple hours at night when I'm at my studio, like making beats. Like
yeah,
I'm like always thinking about it
throughout your days. Yeah, putting pieces together. Yeah. So that's one way of doing it. And then will you actively like spend time like getting your fingers dusty, as they used to put it, or like going through songs until you find something interesting within a song? Like
like I have like a sample folder of like different styles.
Yeah.
So like I'll have like a jazzy kind of sample folder and like, or like a dark jazz sample folder, and I have like all these kind of folders, and like depending on the mood I'm in or who I'm cooking up for, I'll go into that folder.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. For a certain feeling or a certain sound.
Feeling. Yeah. There's certain artists that like, you know, I've come to just know like this is what they like, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you're surprised by these artists too, right? And they like something that you never even knew that they would like, right? But yeah, most of the time, man, I'm just like in the folder looking for something, or in my records looking for something, and then light bulb goes off and then I bring it in. But you know, a lot of times like it might be like I'll use like the first like quarter of a bar from here, and then later on I find a nice little quarter, because sometimes you have to, because you're like chopping around vocals and you're like you're trying to get good parts that like maybe there's a weird crackle in the record there, like, you know, like, so I'm really used to like moving it all around. Like some stuff it's like, oh, you sampled it from that, like it's kind of crazy, you know. Dilla used to do it all the time. Like he would, like, there's still samples that people don't even know where they're from, because he was just taking such small micro chops
and then maybe pitch bending them or stretching them.
Yeah,
like,
once you start adding the pitch bending in and stretching them, then it's just like crazy, right? So
yeah, can become almost unrecognizable.
It's amazing that like it's finally, like the art of sampling is finally getting recognized, you know?
Yeah.
It took like 40 years, but you know, maybe more. We're finally here.
Yeah. How often are you doing that? Just that, like altering the sound, or are you usually trying to stick and find the right moment and then being like, that's what I need, and keeping that? Or like, how often will you like take a sample and turn it into something different? You know, like stretching.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I'll take just a bass one shot from a song, and that's now my bass. Maybe I like the tone of that bass, and I just took the one shot from it, and now I'm gonna like make that its own like instrument that I'm now programming, and that's I start my whole beat with that bass, and then I find drums. Okay, now I want to find like if I'm making like a real boom bappy like hip hop premiere style beat. Okay, now I want to find a horn. Maybe there was a horn in that same record that I was on, because if I could find something from that same song, it's probably going to be in the same pitch, because you know when you're sampling, you're dealing with pitch, you're dealing with like it's going through a record player. Who knows what speed it was going through? Maybe that record player didn't have as much power that day or whatever. And it was like going a little bit slower, so it's like a weird pitch. And like I don't want to be like trying to match pitch to like something that's detuned. Like that gets crazy.
Oh wow, yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
There's detuning involved with sampling. Like it's a really crazy process. Like putting bass to a sampled beat is like really hard for a lot of people because of that detuning.
Yeah, because it's the key, right? I mean,
it's not a perfect key all the time, right?
Yeah, wow. That starts
if you
to
don't
get
have
really
a really
messy.
good ear, you could turn to a psycho, dude. Like,
oh yeah,
I've had to like walk away sometimes, man. Because bass frequencies are so hard, so you got to play higher up, right? But still, it can get really difficult.
Yeah, it's really hard to hear the bass frequencies.
But yeah, like so sometimes it'll start with a one shot, and it'll just be like, okay, I'm just taking that from it. So like, you know, there's no real like legal ramification when I'm making taking a 1 second clip and making a whole instrument out of it, and then who knows where the inspiration kind of flows, right? But there's usually like a single thing where I borrow from, or sometimes I'll start like it's rare, but sometimes I'll just start like completely fresh. Yeah, with just like a VST instrument, like in Contact or whatever. Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'll start that way.
Yeah. How often you get into a situation where you're having to like seek out rights for a sample, or like
never,
because you only are going to sources where you know they're going to be cleared right from the beginning.
Yeah, but also if I upload something to Instagram and they don't catch it in like an IG or on Facebook, I don't think it's going to get caught, you know? Unless it's getting millions and millions of streams.
Sure, okay. Mm-hmm.
You know? But like a lot of producers have said like, just keep doing your thing. Like if they're on to you, then clearly you're successful. It's not the worst thing. Maybe change the way you're doing things a little bit when you're that successful. But like, you know, like the Alchemist, he samples a lot and he clears a lot of stuff. But he's sampling like very obscure stuff where the artist isn't even making money off music anymore. So he contacts the artist and he goes, "Hey, I'll give you this." Like he knows he's going to make how much money off of this.
Yeah.
Right. He goes, I'll cut you a check for 10 grand for that sample. Boom. Bought out.
Because after 50 years, it's public domain.
I think so. Yeah. 50 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of that music in the 70s is now starting to become.
Yeah. Just free for all.
Yeah.
That's making things interesting.
Yeah. A lot of people won't sample from like 60s or 50s because it kind of has like a graininess to it. The way they recorded it was just, there was a lot of static, and
except for the Japanese stuff, right?
I don't think they really even started doing shit to like the 70s, but yeah. Before that, it was just like pung 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 pung. It was just all that stuff.
Dude, the shit really changed like in the 60s and the 70s because like you're very on point with that. Like you go back just a decade before and you get like the 50s and 40s, and it's just like hard to listen to. It went from like
the peaking horns, everything was like peak, and
all the vocals are oversaturated, like distorted, and the mic, and
well, because they were singing into like a friggin' box, basically. Like I don't even know what they were.
I don't even know if they had compression yet. A lot of engineers were just like riding the faders while the person was singing, and it was just like a lot of the technology wasn't there. And then things started to happen in the '60s, and it's like, whoa, like music is just like the songs are good, but it sonically sounds impressive at the same time, right? And that shift just like within like a decade just really changed. So that makes sense that people don't want to go back earlier than that, because a lot of that shit, like you said, try listening to like music from post World War II, like the 1920s. That stuff is like where everyone's like super, all the guys and girls are like high pitch, and like it's just like mono, and there's like trumpet with the lead vocal, and just like and cymbals, and just
yeah it's crazy.
It's just a mess, you know. And
I actually had a record. My dad gave it to me. It was in my grandma's stuff, and it was like a record from the 30s, because they used to do like telegraphs where like you could record to a record, and then you could send it to somebody. Like you do this at the library, and then you could send it to somebody, and then they could play it on a record player.
Okay.
Instead of like just mailing a letter, it was like a
voice note,
a voice note, a voice memo. You know?
Holy shit.
The original voice memo.
Dude.
And so I had that record, and it was my grandmother, or my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather didn't say anything because men didn't really talk much back then, but he just went on the record. It was hilarious. And it was her sister saying that she's going to get married. And they were living in separate states. She's like, I hope you can come back for it. And she's talking all like how they talked in the 20s.
Yeah.
And they were like in New York, and they were like New York Jews, and like she was like in school somewhere. I can't remember where she was, but they were like sending it to her.
That's fucking cool.
It was really cool. But just like the way it was recorded was hilarious, and like the vinyl it was on was so cheap, and like thin. It was just so weird.
That's beautiful, I think. Like as a way of
it was eerie.
Sharing
it was very eerie
sharing
to like, listen to it.
Yeah, I bet it was. I wonder if that'll come back. People send like, I mean, things are just so instant. We're just so used to having information instantaneously nowadays. But imagine, recording you and your wife saying that you are having a baby, and then mailing it to someone as like a tape, and then they have to pop it in and hear your voice say that, as opposed to sending a text. Like that's wild.
That's pretty cool.
That's very
special.
Special, yeah. So that's essentially what they were doing. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. And how here we are in 2023, recording off our phones, making beats off our phones, uploading it.
Yeah, people buy beats off me, and they probably haven't even like checked it on their actual system.
For sure.
I bet you like 80% of the time these dudes have listened to it on their phone. They don't even know if the bass is hidden. Like it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Rappers used to want to like, at the end of the session, like play the finished mix in the parking lot while they're driving home. Like I used to just like mix as we were recording, and just like
burn a CD.
and then put it out that night, and it's just like the instant gratification is just like, it's just so like, like put some time into it. You know, people just want things so instantly now. We can't, there's no patience. There's no, you know, we need it now. We need it quicker than now. I want, you know, yeah, saw a lot of that. Who are like some of the producers that you look up to, or maybe like when you were getting into making beats that you maybe modeled or like admired?
Well, I was really all about the West Coast when I came in. I love DJ Quick. I was a big fan of Dre. Like I loved that stuff when I first started because I was listening to Tupac a lot. And I was listening to a lot of DJ Quick and all that stuff. And I started getting more to the East Coast, Premier, Large Professor, Alchemist. I know he's on the West Coast, but I always think of him as an East Coast kind of guy. But yeah, Alchemist, like for me right now, he's like the best beat maker in the game. Like there isn't anybody better than him. Yeah.
For that style, for that niche of like sampling still and just like,
yeah,
you know, because
Premier's crazy. Like Premier's dope.
Yeah.
Premier's so dope. But just like the amount of music that the Alchemist has been
very
involved
prolific
with, man, people have no idea how much stuff he's done. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know him much outside of his work with Mobb Deep, you know, when I'm a little ashamed to say that, but there's just so much music out there and so many producers. Tell me a little bit more about like his impact on the culture and the game, like the Alchemist.
Well, I mean, Griselda kind of like, I think threw him back like big up there. But yeah, he's just got a real knack for like working with artists that really haven't like totally gone to their full potential yet, and he just kind of like brings them over. You know, he's a kind of like like Dre that way, like how Dre was.
Yeah.
Like he did that with Freddie Gibbs. I don't know if you heard of Freddie Gibbs, but he did that with Freddie Gibbs, Boldy James. Yeah, he's my favorite producer.
Really knows how to like.
His ear is just amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and like custom tailor beats to bring out the best in that artist that would fit with them
while still having his own style.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's special.
Yeah.
That's really special.
Yeah, because everybody wants to be the producer that like people go to for what they do, right? Nobody, I hate it when people hit me up and they're like, I want to beat like this, and they send me a bunch of YouTube things. It's like, fuck, okay, I'll do it because money, but like, you know, like I want to get to the point where they're like, can you give me your beat? Like, just give me your best beat that's like this, right? Or like, you know, like.
Do you feel like you, over the years, have curated like tendencies or a sound that you can kind of call your own now? Like,
I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth between like doing like really grimy stuff with like real dirty drums to like jazzy trap stuff with like clean drums. So I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I hope like my sampling techniques kind of is what people hear, like the way I chop, and I hope that's kind of what stands out. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's
you're kind of always trying to search for something, right? Like I feel like I'm never done, but
yeah. What do you struggle with as a producer?
Mixing.
Yeah.
Or overthinking sometimes with the mixing. I'm trying to do less of that. Like I watch a lot of guys, and they're just like, and I talk to a lot of guys too. Like when I was younger, I didn't want to, like I had a whole like ego. I didn't want to ask people things, but like now I'm like a lot more like, I'll just hit up my favorite producers like online, and I'll just be like, yo, what do you do with this? Like, how do you do this? Like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care anymore.
You can
like, I'm not trying to press like who.
You can reach out to anybody now.
It's so easy, man. And when you reach out to somebody like with like real like gratitude and like say that you look up to them and how they do, like compliment them, like people want to talk.
That's exactly how I start those conversations as well. And every single one of them has responded, and I'm like, I'm talking to, you know, such and such right now. This is crazy. Like, and just genuinely like from one engineer to another, one producer to another, like, I'm a big fan of yours. I love what you're doing. And just like, maybe they're cool enough to like let you pick their brain for a little bit. And like, that's amazing, man. Yeah.
They might not be too. They might just like see your message and just totally ghost it. Right. But that happens too. But yeah.
Yeah. But, we can do that with the internet now. That's pretty cool. And share knowledge, and just something that maybe would take you 20 years. Someone could just be like, try this.
Totally.
Have you thought of this?
Totally, man.
Oh, gee, thanks. Just change.
But with hip hop, somebody always wants their drums to be better, though. You can have like the most slapping drums. People always want their drums to be better. Like, it's a constant battle. So yeah, mixing's probably like my.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, are you still trying to? I don't know. Obviously, you know, sounds like you're doing well selling the beats, and you've got a good, you know, platform. You've got a good momentum on social media and things like that. But like, what are maybe like the next thing that you'd like to try, or the next thing that you'd like to improve, like as an artist, as someone like as a content creator, maybe, if I can ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, I like to invest more in myself. Like, I'm always trying to invest in myself to make the content quality better. Like, I'd like to probably get like a new camera. Like, I'm using a GoPro right now.
Looks great.
Yeah, it looks all right. Like, it's got like the fisheye kind of look, which is hip hop.
Yeah.
But like, some guys have like really nice, like they're using like digital SLRs, and they got a nice Canon set up, and like the light's real nice and warm, and like it just has like a more vintage look.
Okay.
Whereas mine looks a little. But I mean, the internet likes like more, like less pro stuff, right? Like less pro stuff does better on the internet, right? As soon as you look like you're trying to sell something, it like puts you down a few notches, right? Like with the algorithm. So
yeah, people are starving for authenticity, I think.
Totally. So the more raw the video, the better. But yeah, investing in that, I think would be like probably smart. I just like to work with some larger artists, because that always helps the brand, right?
Hell yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, because that kind of brings me to one of the other questions I was going to ask about, like who would you like to collaborate with? But yeah, I mean, landing you know, a feature, some big features would be massive, right? It could be game changing.
Yeah, so there's like like you said, like it's easy to get at people now. So when you have an artist's ear, and like they're like open to the idea of you sending them beats, not that you're buying a feature off them, but that they're like open to using some of your beats, and then like obviously business can be talked about afterwards, but usually it's like, you know, just like if it's a bigger artist, just put my name down, right? Like you just want the advertisement, right? So I'm kind of focusing in, trying to like tailor beats to a few different artists that I've kind of been trying to work with. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now, and that's kind of the only thing I'm really doing that's like free work now. Everything else is just, it's got to be paid, right? So that's basically all I'm at right now.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I know the feeling. Definitely put my years in of well, trying to build the portfolio, and you know what it is, or doing work for friends, and all those friends are paying me now. You know, no more free work, so that's good to hear that. I like to ask this question to rappers because it's always interesting to hear like who's in their top 5, but I think it can be pretty easily summed up for, you know, great beat makers or great producers as well. So do you have a top 5 in your head, or can you just name 5 producers that people should know about in the history of like hip hop and beat making?
Good question. I mean, yeah, Premier and Alchemist are the tops for me. I think a lot of producers will probably say those 2 names. Fuck. It could be anybody after that, man.
If somebody was like that didn't know anything about this and was interested in learning more about it, like, oh, I gotta, you know, do my homework.
Rock Marciano's like crazy. He's like an amazing sampler. A little bit like Alchemist, but a little bit different in how he like approaches things. He's more like loop based, but he's really sick with it. Vinny Idol. I really like Vinny Idol and what he's been doing lately.
Okay, I don't know that name.
If you ever like heard the new like Nems, you heard of Nems? Okay. Who else is sick?
You mentioned Jay Dilla earlier, obviously.
Yeah, Jay Dilla is crazy.
Yeah. Innovative.
Yeah, I'd put him in my top 5 probably.
Yeah.
I don't fan over like a lot of producers. Like I'm more of like a fan of rap that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I could like argue about a top 5 with rap for like forever. Like,
Okay, give me your top 5 then too.
It's always changing.
While we're on it,
It's always changing.
I won't argue with you. I'm just very curious to.
It's always changing.
Yeah.
But like, Redman's always in the top 5. Sean P's there. Like Redman and Sean P are always there. Freddie Gibbs is like there right now. I'm not gonna like Biggie and Pac are not in my top 5.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, there's not enough work there. There's just not enough work there. Like maybe their careers would have been crazy, but like we don't know, right? So, Redman, Sean P, Freddie Gibbs right now, Nas, Ghostface Killah. Yeah, Ghostface Killah's there for sure. Black Thought, man, I could go on.
Yeah, that's really
Redman, Black Thought, Ghostface.
Solid, yeah.
Freddie Gibbs is like a maybe, but yeah, Sean P, Redman, Ghostface. What else did I say?
Nas.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't hear Redman be brought up a lot in people's top 5 other than Eminem's top 5 where he famously put Reggie, Jay-Z too. But yeah, very crazy. Underrated. I mean, incredible. He has a song on
Black Thought too. Black Thought and Redman I feel like are so underrated MCs.
Yeah, he's Redman's I heard a new verse on Logic's got a new project and he's got a verse from Redman on there.
Wow.
And it's like it just still sounds great. Like he hasn't lost his tone or his voice.
The way he projects his voice is just it's next level.
Yeah, it really is. It's really
crazy,
is,
dude. It's crazy.
We were talking about confidence earlier, but for him, like if it was an instrument, like it was just so mastered. Like you said, how he projects his voice,
he's
just
like
that
a horn.
tone.
It's crazy.
It is a horn. It's just
Black
it's
Thought
so
too.
musical.
Black Thought too, man.
Yeah.
If you ever watched the video of Black Thought and Method Man, they're freestyling. I don't know how much freestyle it was. I think they're just like throwing verses.
Yeah.
But it's on, I remember what show they're on, like one of those like shows where they're just freestyling. If you just look up Black Thought and Method Man freestyle, it's crazy, man. Method Man just looks so embarrassed. Like Black Thought just killing him, dude. Just killing him. Black Thought's an animal. He's nuts.
Yeah, I saw a verse, or not a verse. It was like 5 minutes. I wish I could. No, I'm just gonna look and sound really stupid. But mentioning Black Thought now, he did it was like a tribute to hip hop. He did for some museum, and then it was like him standing in a room with like a projector behind him, and he just sort of goes through like the whole history of hip hop.
Yeah, I think I've seen this.
And talks about, and then like name drops people, and like in 5 minutes, and just like it's stunning. It's like it's a verbal work of art.
Yeah, he's a poet. He's crazy.
Totally, in every sense of the word.
Yeah,
yeah. How do you feel about Nas's the revamped Nas that we got in the last 5 years, 4 years?
His latest project is really good. The King's Disease, was it 2 now?
3.
3 is really good.
3 I wasn't mad at.
3 was good. The other ones the beats were nice. Not a fan. Yeah, I like the older Nas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I came up on that
Numero
stuff.
uno for me. Yeah. So it was hard for me to, when he put out, what was it, that Magic EP and then King's Disease 1, 2, 3, and it was just like the mixing was the biggest thing for me.
Magic wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad, but like it was still him there. But for me, it was, as an engineer, it was like how it sounded. I remember Nas. Kevin Krause was his engineer. He used to have one of the best sounds in hip hop, and that's what I grew up on. And then got a new engineer, new producers, whole new camp, new vocal. Like it's every step of the way. Like we've been talking about all night, like recording, and it's just like this isn't what Nas sounds like.
He's always been like a good rapper, a good writer, but he's never had like a good ear.
I agree. I've always felt like almost there's been a laziness to him where it's just like, how did he approve these? These don't sound good at all. Like
his beat selection too, right? Like his beat selection is just garbage sometimes, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So it was tough. It's been strange as a Nas fan lately, but the third one I got into it and I was like, okay, I'm not, like I said, I'm not. These aren't like disgust isn't quite the right word, but I was like. I've been rejecting a lot of the new stuff. It's just as a hardcore lifelong fan, it's just like not that. That's not a flavor.
I'm that way with Eminem. Like,
well, he's completely a different person, different sound,
it's a totally different sound now.
It's not like the same guy.
His voice is like hard to listen to now.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah.
And once you tune out, right? Like you're just like, I'm done. There's enough out there to listen to, right?
Totally. Yeah, just rapping for the sake of rapping right now, I feel like, is the last couple of things. And it's like, it's impressive, but it's not really musical anymore. It's just like, what are you trying to, it's just showing off almost. So yeah, I don't care for it much.
Who's your top 5?
Mine has changed since I was, a teenager as well, but, Jay-Z, Eminem, Nas, for sure. And then those are the 3, like, if it was Mount Rushmore, even if it was like 3 or 4, those are the 3 that I can't remove. In the last couple of spots, there's I go back and forth with Tupac and Biggie. I really do. And like you said, like they're not in your top 5, and they never really have been in mine either. But I go back and there's moments where I hear Tupac and I'm like, that might be the greatest rapper that ever lived. Just like his confidence and his conviction and his delivery. Like when you hear California Love, or you hear that it's a song with Method Man and Redman. It was like Got My Mind Made Up or something like that. It's like that might be one of the best deliveries in the history of the game. So I go back and forth with him, but again, it's just like not there's a space for like lyrical impressive-ness, if you could say that, where like those 2 don't live there for me. So even someone like Rakim for creating a space for people like Nas and then Kendrick and J. Cole and people who did multi-syllable rhymes. Like Rakim was the godfather of all that,
Cool G Rap, like all that stuff, right? Like I love all those guys.
I'd throw one of them in there even,
Sure. It's crazy. It's crazy. You could just...
It's so hard.
It's hard.
There's so many dope MCs.
It really depends on when you came up, right?
Totally. And like I can't remember who it was, but I've had a couple of younger people in the 20s, because I'm in my 30s now, so those people are younger.
They are young.
Different generation, who I asked that question to, who's in your top 5, and there are 5 people I've never heard of that came out in the last 5 years. And that's their top 5. And it's like, okay, well, you have never even heard of anyone that we've heard of or that we grew up on. So sure, they're not in your top 5 because they literally don't exist for you.
Right, exactly. And that's how the older cats felt when I was younger, probably too, when I was naming off Tupac or Biggie, right? They were like, what?
And they're naming cats from like the early 80s.
Right, exactly.
With the gold ropes.
Africa Bambaataa. What about
yeah. Slick Rick.
I love Slick Rick.
Honestly, underrated. Well, not underrated, but like different, like
innovative.
No, yeah.
So innovative.
Yeah. Hilarious.
But all the rappers we love are innovative because that's why we love them, right? Like, you don't love a rapper because they sound like somebody else. Every rapper that's in the top 5 is probably somebody that sounds, special on their own. Like it's just.
I re-listened to Black on Both Sides recently.
Sick.
I was almost in tears. Like, it was so emotional. Just the rush of nostalgia that I got listening to that. And
it's like that with the Black Star album for me.
When
I listen to the Black Star album, I get like a little crazy. Like, it's a great album.
I was referencing the Black Star album recently, and I'd never heard it. Like, when I was a teenager, I don't know, I had what I was listening to, like speakers that I got at a garage sale and some like cheap Sony headphones. Like that was what I consumed music on. And now I have a $10,000 system with stunning clarity. And I went back and listened to the Black Star album with the system and my 20 plus years now of my ear training and was just blown away. I used to love it for the sound and the rhymes and the beats, and now I'm falling in love with it for a whole new set of reasons because of how good it sounded.
High Tech produced it, or he made the beats for it, but I think
really
he's just an MPC
hard
guy.
To find there's a dude named Troy Hightower who mixed some stuff on the Reflection Eternal album. High Tech's also credited as a mixer, so it might be a combination of those two dudes that did some of the Black Star album, but there's no album I own the CD and there's no lining for it.
He's probably the engineer.
Yeah.
And High Tech's the like producer, right?
Yeah.
It's probably collaborative effort, right? But High Tech's like the main name guy, right? That's typically how it is, right? The engineer gets shat on.
Yeah. And from that era and that, style of music, it they might have just mixed it like between them, and as opposed to sending it off the way music's done now to be like,
it was all
someone
done there
else
probably.
Yeah, like there might even been the in-session mixes that made the
well, back then you like rent out a studio and you go there for
right,
for
and
days
then like you've got all your EQ set up on the console, and it's like okay, mix is done. Like
yeah.
It's like me and you in there tweaking it, wearing the same boots for 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay, mix is done. Print it. We're not sending it off to someone else, right? So I'm probably something like that. But I go way out of my way often to find credits for mixes, right? Because I'm so curious about that all the time. And some of these older albums are really hard to find. Like they don't have a Wikipedia page, or like I said with the Black Star album, you open the CD and there's no credits. They wrote the whole track list on the disc. It's a brown disc with white writing, and it goes in a spiral.
Yeah,
but there's no
super annoying to read that spiral.
But the booklet, there's no booklet with anything in it. So, but Troy Hightower, that's a name I remember from the Reflection.
Well, it's a pretty underground album still. You know?
Yeah.
Like as important as it was for us, like I mean, it's still quite an underground album.
Not yet fully appreciated.
I mean, it's in the top 100. I think if you look on most lists, it's probably in the top 100 albums of all time for hip hop.
Oh, it's got to be.
The sound is just crazy. It's just crazy, man.
It still holds up now. To this day, like it's loud. You know how the whole like loudness war
thing. It's got great
like,
bass. High Tech was crazy with the bass.
The low end is hitting.
Yeah.
The like some of the snares and like
the drums are almost like primal in how they feel. You know. Yeah. They have like a jungleness to them. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
All of it.
It's
and
a real sound. Yeah.
The vocals are like silk. Like it all just sonically.
Those guys' voices
beautiful.
are so like some people just have voices that are like easy.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you deal with that all the time, right? Like guys that are just like in that nice pocket. Their frequency is just perfect.
Oh, absolutely. And then some people.
My voice sucks for mixing. I got homies too that it's so hard. You have like a bassy voice, right? It's just really hard.
But yeah, Mos Def had that like smooth tone. It was just so smooth. It had just enough bass, but also like cut. Like he had that pocket, and then Talib had that like high pitch thing that like cut through no matter what. God, they were good. Man. Brown skin lady.
Yeah, that album and probably Blackout are probably like the most important albums of my like
Blackout too.
My teenage years.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That's interesting, man. Yeah, I had both of those just on repeat.
Blackout I played so much.
Yeah. That also sounds incredible, like mixing wise, production wise, like sample choice wise, because not all albums do. And like I go back and listen to stuff that I liked as a teenager, and I'm like, doesn't hold up. Or
so
like
true.
This sounds like crap. Or
so
like,
true.
Wow, that was actually the vocal. Like I can hear the kitchen, or what? Like I can hear the
so true,
the booth, and they don't hold up. But then some albums you go back and they're like ticks off all the boxes, and it's just like, God damn, it's a masterpiece through and through.
Yeah.
And the Blackout and Black Star albums are examples of that. Absolutely.
You mind if I grab another water off you?
I don't know if I have any more. Actually, that might have been the last one. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
But we can wrap it up soon if you're
No, it's all good.
Thirsty.
It's all good. We're good. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I should have more. Like
but corner store right
heavy
there.
drinker. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of what else I wanted to ask. While I've got you here tonight. Well, tell people, like we talked about your production and your your studio and stuff, and putting your videos out and things like that. Where can people like find you online? What's the best place? I know you've got a link tree, which I found very helpful on your Instagram.
Yes.
But you've also got a website for the Illegitimate Like,
Yeah, illegitimate.com is like
Yeah.
my crew's website. It's pretty like somewhat up to date. It's ILL-legitimate.com. It's pretty up to date. It's the crew's page. You won't find a lot of like my solo work there, but you'll find links to kind of every artist in that crew. Nowadays I work just a lot more with like just a lot of people, not just in the crew. A lot of the crew isn't making music anymore, so I'm kind of just all over the place. But most of the time you can find my beats and my beat catalog on SoundCloud, produced by Sythe, is my name on there. It's also my name on IG, produced by Sythe. Yeah. That's where you can find me.
Perfect. And I noticed in a handful of songs you produced, you were in the music video just as an actor, and I was like waiting for you to have some bars, but you were just like that cool guy like in sunglasses like in the video.
Yeah. When Leia did a bunch of videos for us, right? Leia Cohen. I think she's in Ontario now because Vancouver scene's just so hard, right? There's not enough people here to like fuel like a video dream, like a music video dream, right? So she's in Ontario now, but yeah, she's crazy. She did the I Might video for us. She did Canvas, which is with Jacob Evolved and
Love
That's
that
Where Rap's
one.
Good. You like that one?
Yeah.
That's cool. But she's just got a really cool eye, really cool style. And then she did the Operate video with me, Rosmo, and Kid Lithium. That's kind of like an R&B project. Yeah,
I noticed right away that those videos were on another level. Like as far as, I don't want to use the word artsy, but they were like, there was art in them, you know, like the camera angles, and just they looked so well put together. So shout out to her.
Yeah, she's amazing. Leia Cohen.
Incredible.
Yeah, she's great.
Cool, man. Sythe, we did it. I feel like we could just talk about hip hop for another 4 hours,
Probably.
you know, both married men, places
gotta
to
work
be.
in the morning.
Got to work in the morning.
Gotta
so
wake up.
We'll have to do this again. I'll have you back.
Yeah, dude.
And I will definitely hit you up for. Well, I'll check out your catalog, and I'd love to make something happen where you know I can.
I like doing custom stuff
one of
too,
your
man.
beats.
So if you like want to show me like a couple of the things that you already got going on, I can
Okay, maybe we'll do that route too.
tailor it to that.
Okay.
But take a look through my stuff. I might
Yeah.
have something that's already there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
All right, dude.
Thank you everybody for listening. It's Max Deshaw and Sythe on the Demo to Limo podcast. I hope you're having a great week. Don't forget, we're on YouTube now. You can watch us. We're on Apple Podcast and Spotify and everywhere else, all those smaller unknown platforms. Check us out. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
I think the limo driver's here right now, man.
Let's go.
Peace.